Welcome back. This is going to be a Q&A section. I'm joined seamlessly by a Zoom call containing, in the following order, Melanie, who's the tutor, and three students, Naomi, gives away Naomi, and Lily, and Gaurav. And we're going to try and answer your questions. I'm going to let them introduce themselves briefly. I haven't told them what to say, so quickly, I think introduction might mean what you're studying, maybe something you like about maths or something, who knows. Let's start with Melanie, top left.
Hi everyone, I'm Melanie. I'm a researcher who works on geometric analysis and a college tutor at Trinity College. And I just love proving stuff.
Fantastic, thank you. Naomi, you're up.
Hi everyone, I'm in my third year. I'm doing maths and I'm at St Anne's College, and I really like fluid dynamics, like how water flows and things like that.
And then Lily's here.
Hi everyone, I'm Lily. I'm a first year doing maths and philosophy at Queen's, and I really like everything culturally or historically related with math.
Last but not least, Gaurav.
Hi everyone, I'm Gaurav. I'm a first year studying maths, and I think I am a big fan of integration. So whether that just be stuff from integration bees or coming up with new integration techniques, that's just what I really love.
Smashing, cool. I told them in the Oxford and admissions talk just now, I told them there's integration in the first year and integration in the second year as topics that they can cover. So Lily's doing it. And we talked a little bit about maths and philosophy as joint honours courses. And I did mention fluids as well. So okay, look, students. There's a question in chat. I think it's for the students. They'd like examples of supercurricular activities for maths. I guess they're thinking about what to do before they apply, things they can do outside of the classroom, other than studying lots of maths for their exams. Has anybody got any suggestions of what they can do outside of the classroom? Give me a thumbs up if you.
One of the things I can. Sorry, I'll let Naomi take this one.
Okay, well, I'll go and then feel free to add anything. I was just going to say, I think the UKMT challenges can be really fun, firstly, but also can be quite useful for like practicing your problem solving skills. So if you've been able to do the senior maths challenge or any of the Olympiads, I think they can be really fun. So I would definitely recommend those.
Fun but not required. Oh, it came up in the admissions thing already. Fun but not required. I think. Okay. And Gaurav.
Yeah, and I would just add to that what I found quite useful is, as I mentioned, I'm a big fan of integration. So during my high school studies, I wanted to look up more integration resources. So I just went around on Google finding different books which are on integration, which are suited to my level. And turns out there's a whole heap of resources. So I think finding a book which you enjoy and then checking it out from the library and then working through it is something that you will definitely enjoy if it's a topic that you really like. And it also gives you a good look into what sort of higher study would look like in that field.
Lily, do you want to add anything about maths and philosophy? Sorry.
Yeah. I would say to also maybe read something beyond your course that you might find to be interesting. It doesn't have to be super structural, but like just reading a book or something that's related to your interests and letting you develop your ideas beyond what high school has to offer.
Do you have any book recommendations in particular? So people are interested in.
I read some books from the Oxford Math Prospectus where they have like a reading list.
Oh,
like you can just go and see.
I didn't tell you to say that, but yes, in the prospectus that we linked to right at the end of the talk, there's a list of books. It's not a reading list like for, I don't know, humanities subjects where they make you read things, but some suggested starting points maybe. Melanie, I don't know if you're feeling left out. Do you have any suggestions for things to?
I think just talk with people about math, and also it can be really helpful to explain something you understood to one of your colleagues, whether that's something they struggled with or not. And that's also really great preparation for things like interviews and then doing math at university, because working together is usually very, very helpful.
Yeah, working together is great. There's a follow-up question that's just come in. If your supercurricular investigations are not mentioned in the undergraduate prospectus. Is that all right? And I want to be clear that yes, there are some suggestions in the prospectus and suggestions from our students, but if you're thinking about your personal statement, it's personal. You can do your own thing. You don't have to do one of our suggested books or something related to one of our courses necessarily. There's also a related question, I suppose, about what the extracurricular activities are like for students at Oxford. So when you get here, you can obviously do lots of maths as part of your maths degree. What else can you get up to, Naomi?
I would say there's absolutely loads of things you can get up to at lots of levels, and I think that's a really great thing. Is if you want to play netball at your college but you don't want to play all the time, you could just play once a week. Or if you're really into your sport, there's more high level things, more intense things you can do. I spend a lot of my time singing. I sing about 4-ish times a week with the sing choir, which is something that I really enjoy. And there's also a lot of drama and musical things that you can get into. And I would also say on the subject of this, I was quite worried or unsure before I came to Oxford whether I would actually have time to do any things that aren't maths, and there definitely is time to take part in some of these great extracurricular activities. And I think that's a really fun thing to do, to get to meet some other people and do something outside of maths once in a while.
Other students, go.
Sorry. I'll just add to that one of the, I think, best parts about Oxford is I'm sure a lot of you may have seen on YouTube the Oxford Union and the sort of various people that Oxford brings together. I think that if you enjoy debating or you enjoy history and just enjoy being up to date on current events, I think the Oxford Union is absolutely fantastic. They bring together like many notable figures. Like I know for a fact that recently, I think it was last year, they invited Angela Merkel, and they've also invited like the Indian chief minister. They've invited loads of very cool people, and joining the union would be a great chance to meet them face to face. So that's something I would definitely recommend people to sort of take a look at.
That's pretty cool. There's a follow-up question. They want niche societies. They want things like a sea shanty society. No pressure, Lily. Have we got anything weird to tell them about?
In terms of niche societies, I guess there is a society called Board Game Society. I'm not sure if that would quite come under that, but during that society, they have like loads of different, hundreds of different board games and card games available, and I go there semi-frequently. I'm not sure if that is an answer to that question, though.
Fair. I suppose student societies are often started by students, and if you want to come here and set up an Oxford C, well, it's quite hard to say. Oxford C, no, I can't do it. It was singing, another sort of singing, but piratical. You can come and do that in Oxford. It sounds great. Two things. I've seen that we've been joined in Slido, so typing answers. We've been joined by two people from CS. So if somebody called Sarah or Max answers your question typed in Slido, they're from the CS department, and they're trying to address lots of the maths and CS questions that we've had coming in. There's a Melanie specific question. Somebody, maybe several people, would like to know what's on your whiteboard behind you. They can see integrals, I think.
Yes. Oh, this is a note from a discussion I had with a PhD student yesterday. So we're having to estimate things. It's basically related to a research project where we're trying to find a way of modifying surfaces which are sort of having given boundary curves in a way that the area gets smaller and smaller. And what you get at the end is soap films, if that all works. And since I'm a pure mathematician, I have to prove everything. And loads of error terms show up that we have to estimate, and that's some of them. So yes.
Definitely.
But it's fun.
It's a little bit like fluid dynamics as well, so it's relevant to applied maths as well. It's brilliant, isn't it? There's a popular question about, there's lots of questions about Olympiads and interviews that I think we've touched on. I'm just having a look at what's getting thumbs up in there as well. They're interested in things like, can you go to lectures from later year classes? I think some nodding because you can, but I'm not going to put anybody on the spot to say that they actually do that. Got quite a lot going on during the previous years. Go, Lily, go. Yeah.
I went to a graph theory course that's not in first year, but I sort of go because one of my friends was like she took it, so she wants somebody to go to the lectures with her so that she can get up and go to the lectures. But I feel like there are courses beyond your current level that you can still understand because for graph theory, for example, they start from a very basic level and doesn't require much prerequisite. But of course, there are courses like functional analysis that's no way for me to understand without finishing first year or second year and everything else. So I think it's not just a matter of doing later year courses, but actually understanding what's going on and what maybe you need in preparation for things.
Maybe just to add to that, as actually the functional analysis lecturer at the moment, it usually is more important that you get the basics really right. And then if you are interested in something, it can be nice to go and have a little look. But one of the really good things is that you have a college tutor who you can just ask, do you think, is that a good idea or not? And also as lecturer, if someone asks me, I might tell them, look, this part of the course, it might give you a taste. Do not even try to come to these 3 weeks because you're just going to be lost. And that's not fun.
You're even allowed to go to lectures from most other courses, but it's really a time turner sort of situation. You need a lot of time. Melanie's thinking.
And you could go to all research seminars that we have. Not a lot of students do, but you would definitely be welcome. And I think in fourth year, it can be really nice for people who want to do a PhD afterwards, find out what's going on. There's, 20 research seminars or more a week. And if there's some topic you just want to see one of the top researchers giving a talk about their research, you're very welcome to go.
There's a question about the workload as well. So, disclaimer, earlier today I told them that my estimate was, during the 8-week term, 40 hours a week. But I had a joke about it being hard to estimate whether you're actually working or kind of just on your phone, and then you have an idea while on your phone, so it should probably have counted. This is the chance for the students to tell me I'm totally wrong, and you actually work way harder than that. How dare I say anything rude about you while you weren't on the call? Students, 40 hours?
I think that's about right. I remember in first year and some into second year, I was like keeping track of exactly how many hours I worked, as in like actually was working, not necessarily just, sitting in the library. And it was between 40 and 50. So yeah, I would say that's about right. I do think compared to school, it's more, you might find that you're sort of working fewer hours because you're not like at school from 9 till 4 or whatever. And then you've got hours of homework to do, but the work that you are doing is more intense because you've got to be very focused on what you're doing, because I certainly found it quite a bit more challenging and you're sort of trying to come up with ideas. So I think there's definitely plenty of time to do extracurricular things, as we've talked about, but you will be, working quite a bit, which means it can be very rewarding because you learn things faster.
Workload, Gareth, go, yeah.
I'll say that my work hours sort of vary from week to week depending on how I'm finding the courses. I definitely found I was working in general harder during my second term than my first term. And I would say that around the first term, I was probably working close to 40 to 45 hours per week, whereas in the second term, I found some of the courses slightly more difficult, which meant that I needed more time to read up on problem sheets or read up on lecture notes. And that sort of probably pushed me closer to 50 or around 50-ish hours per week. But yeah, I would say it sort of depends on how good you are at certain courses and how easily the new content is, how easily you understand the new content.
Varying person to person as well. Go, Lily. Yeah.
So, I think they've covered the math part really well, but with math and philosophy, we also have philosophy courses. So the time you work might vary a lot, depends on from different people, because some people would just read everything that's required. Some people would read a lot beyond the required reading list, which is actually helpful. Some people read some of the required reading and then just go on exploring things they want to read. So I feel like for philosophy, it really depends on how much effort and time you want to put into doing your reading or like reading beyond the course, which also in turn helps you with your essays. So it's kind of like a personal choice.
And then did you want to say anything about workload or what it's like seeing students come through the course?
Yeah, maybe you have a lot more freedom to plan, but you also have to plan a lot more. And I think one of the biggest difference to school is you cannot just decide, I'm going to solve that problem sheet in the next 2 hours, but you might want to start looking at that problem sheet, then go for a walk because you're completely stuck, then meet up with your friends to actually talk about it. And so it's a bit less sort of you decide, you can't just decide, I do this in this time slot because there's a lot more things that need time to settle.
Yeah, it's that balance, kind of work-life balance that's really important, I think. There's a question in chat that's made me smile, which is, are there nighttime lectures? How do we fit it all in, right? Is there lectures at the middle of the night or something? Which just makes me smile because Melanie is one of the lecturers who could not
Thank
get
you
that.
very much. No. No, I mean, in particular, first year is every morning 9 to 11. And in contrast to Cambridge, we don't do something crazy like Saturday lectures. I think they still do Saturday lectures there. And no, we don't do that. So the lectures are actually they're quite small slots. So you only have 10 hours of lecture most terms. And then you have tutorials in the afternoon, a few hours of that. And we have some lecture capture. So if you miss a lecture because of something, hopefully not just because it was raining and you didn't want to get out, then you can watch them. And I guess that way you can have late night lectures if you really want to.
Yeah, so the recording is pretty good as well, isn't it? You can create your own schedule. When you say every day, it's sort of reminded me of every weekday for lectures during an 8-week term. Yeah, anyway, we've mentioned Cambridge now, so let's talk about Cambridge, I guess. It's not a Cambridge open day. I understand that Cambridge have open days as well, so you could attend those ones too, I imagine. But let's talk about, I suppose at some point you made a choice to apply to Oxford, because here you are in Oxford. You can't apply to both, so in any given year. So I'm assuming you made that choice to apply to Oxford instead of Cambridge, because here you are. There's people in chat, people in the questions who would like to know why. So without doing anything that will get me in trouble with Cambridge, why did you pick Oxford? I don't know who wants to talk about Oxford. Yeah, let's go Gaurav first.
Sorry. Yeah. I think one of the biggest factors for me was I heard that, well, first of all, that Cambridge did Saturday lectures, and I wasn't too sure that's something I wanted to do. But as well as that, I think one of the biggest reasons was I've taken a look at some of the Cambridge courses, and I definitely thought that their courses are a lot more heavy on the pure side, whereas the Oxford one is slightly more applied in at least for the first year courses. And I thought that I would enjoy that more. And the second biggest reason for me was the fact that for Cambridge, for maths, you must do the step to as an entrance examination. And the way the timelines work out, STEP would have been sat at the same time as A levels, whereas on the other hand, for Oxford, the MAT, the admissions test for Oxford, would have been sat almost a year before your A levels, and I just preferred that timeline much more to having to do everything at once for STEP, as I would have had to do if I applied to Cambridge.
Oh,
Lily?
yeah. For me, it's a much easier choice because Cambridge just doesn't offer math and philosophy. So if you want to do something not just math, I think Oxford is like they offer more options.
We've got these joint honours courses, which I listed, and then including maths and philosophy. And there is a maths and philosophy specific question while I've got Lily. They want to know about the philosophy interview. There's lots of people asking about essays, because last time around you mentioned essays at one point, and we need to reassure people doing maths and stats that there's no essays in the maths course unless you do a project in the third year, or if you stay for the fourth year and do a dissertation. But they're interested in the kind of philosophy aspect of the interview as well. We've got maths and philosophy people in the questions.
Okay, so for the interview, I mean, I can't tell you what happened in my interview, but in general, I would assume that most people who study philosophy here at Oxford did not really do philosophy as an academic course in high school because there's not really that much of an opportunity. But so the philosophy interview kind of focuses on how you think, how you reason, how you respond while you see someone else's argument and theory. Because something quite bad in philosophy is when you see a problem and you see three arguments that's kind of different, and you find all of these arguments to really make sense and to be really convincing. Then obviously they're not all saying the same thing and they contradict each other. So you have to be able to kind of think and be critical and have your own, maybe not your own theory, but like have your own perspective towards things. I think that's also like a useful life skill. And about philosophy essays, we do have essays in philosophy, but a surprising aspect to you might be that Oxford philosophy, especially math and philosophy, we do quite a lot of logic. And so there will actually be problem sheets in philosophy. So maybe if you're interested in the course, you might need to look a bit more into that and see if it's a right thing for you.
Thanks. That's really nice. So they asked some more questions about reading, which we've mentioned the reading list in the perspectives of suggested reading. I just wanted this question about TMUA. So there's this other maths test called TMUA. I don't know if anybody took it. Could you? No, some people did do this, and you were doing TMUA and math at about the same time because they're both tests that you do that. They wonder if you've got any advice about that situation. Naomi, any advice for if you're doing TMUA for a different university and MAP for Oxford at the same time?
Well, I did take both of them, and I found taking them at a similar time to be fine. I think that's very doable, and I think that's something quite a lot of people do. I will say that I definitely prepared a lot more for the MAT than I did for TMUA because I was really just taking TMUA as sort of like a bonus thing because I thought I might as well, just in case it sort of helped me in my application to other universities. So I definitely think my preparation was really oriented towards the MAT, and then I just sort of took the TMUA. So yes, I think if there are past papers online, I would generally recommend that as a strategy, but I think it's very possible to take it and just sort of see how it goes in case it helps you.
Thanks. So we want to go. Yeah.
I will say I was in the same boat as Naomi, and I took both papers. And I think it's a good idea to make sure that you leave yourself enough time to do all the past papers for both TMUA and MAT. And the way I usually structured my day was to around 2 months before both of these exams, I started my preparation, and I would essentially go home and sit a TMUA paper one day and then a MAT paper the next day. And I think the best advice I can give is to make sure that when you're sitting the TMUA, first of all, that you should sit both. If you're sitting a 2015 paper, say, for example, make sure to sit both paper one and paper two of the TMUA together, like sit one and then the next immediately, because that's how it will be on the day that you'll have your exam. So it's very important that you make sure that you develop your stamina and that you can indeed keep focus for the continuous 3 hours. And after you mark every paper, I think it would be very helpful if you make a separate error log where you sort of write down, okay, these are the questions I got wrong. This is what I learned from this question. And you can read those error logs before you set the next past paper. I think these two things really helped me. And it's applicable to math as well, or any other test, really.
I love that. That's something I'm trying to teach people during the Mat live streams and things. I'm trying to teach people that, as well as having a go at the question and getting unstuck and having that idea about how to do it, and you can learn things afterwards as well. It's a bit of a challenge, but I suppose that's a bit like what tutorials are doing as well. We should probably talk about the teaching we do here, and sort of ways that we support students when they're stuck with maths. I put Melanie on the spot, I think. So do you want to describe what you do in a tutorial, including chocolate?
Yeah, so tutorials are basically, the way they work is usually you have a problem sheet. So you have a lecture course, and then the lecture course comes with problem sheets. And so you solve the corresponding problem sheet, you hand it in to your college tutor, and then I would mark it. And then we would have a tutorial on that. So I will know exactly what went wrong and what went right. And then often a tutorial is a bit of a discussion. I'm often trying to get also like a student who did one question well, try to explain to their colleagues like how they went about it, what their idea was. And in some sense, it's really very individually filling in the gaps that sort of were there, in particular when you're proving things, and then taking the next step and sort of trying to take from that is like, how would we approach a problem like that in the future? So just like you said, on sort of having an error log is like, what do I not want to do wrong again? And also, how do I take the lessons learned to sort of approach the problem? And often even I'm teaching pure math, so we're doing lots of proofs, but I'm often telling them sort of think up a cooking recipe of step one, I'm trying to do this, step two, I'm trying to do this. And then I have to think really hard of how I go about it afterwards. And we do then similar things also for exam preparations, really trying to take the bigger view, not just how do I solve this particular problem, but how do I generally approach a certain problem type? What are the things I need to look out for if I structure my proofs, and things like that.
Thanks. Students, I imagine you've been to quite a few tutorials. Even if you're in first year, you've been to quite a lot already. Do you want to talk about what it's like? Should we talk about what it's like from the student point of view, or what do you get out of tutorials? What's been a good moment in a tutorial? Go Naomi.
So I think tutorials can be so useful because it's a very small group of people, often maybe two students and one tutor, or three students and one tutor, and it's a really great opportunity to have your questions answered. I think that means it can feel a bit intense sometimes because there's quite a lot of direct attention on you, or the tutor might say to you, oh, Naomi, I noticed that you didn't quite get this right, like talk me through what you were thinking there. And that's a really great opportunity for you to have that discussion and figure out what went wrong, and as Melanie was saying, like how you might approach something another time. I found tutorials, I always tried to have the mindset of this is my opportunity to get my questions answered. So if there was something that I was unsure about, even if I felt like it might be a stupid question or maybe the other people might already know, I would just ask, because it can be so helpful just to have someone else explain it. And if you then get it after that and you're like, oh, that makes complete sense, that's the ideal outcome. And often the other people in the tutorial might also have been thinking the same thing, but they couldn't quite put that question into words, or they didn't want to ask, or whatever. So that would definitely be my advice for tutorials, and they can be really, really useful and really interesting.
Hot takes on tutorials. Yeah, go on, Lily.
I think tutorials are also helpful in the sense that they help you. Sometimes a tutor would tell you something beyond the course or related to the course that helps to make us understand things better. As an example, my tutor for groups, so we were given a definition of what is a group, which is something in math, and our tutor then later on gave us a few definitions that had been in use or has been discussed in history, and to help us see that these definitions are essentially equivalent, or maybe why this definition is preferred than the other. And I think it really helps me foster an understanding of math as a whole, of how math is shaped and why we choose to define something this way instead of another way. And I think that's quite helpful.
Thank you. That's really nice. So some of the support in critical thinking is, I think, really useful for the students learning the content, of course, but also it forces you to do some work, and it forces you to stay on track and to keep learning lots of things. It's a sort of transferable skill as well, because this kind of discussion about the maths is something that happens well in the tutorials with your tutors, but also through your peer group, like your friends. There's a question that's come in about making friends. Is it just with people in your course, just with people in your college, just with both people in your course and the intersection? What's your sort of friendship network like? Well, that sounds like quite a personal question. Sorry, go on, Gaurav.
So I'll say your Freshers Week is probably one of the best times, and like I'm a member of Pembroke College, and your experience might differ slightly from college to college. But at Pembroke, the student body is extremely welcoming, and they hosted a whole host of events during Freshers Week. And what I would recommend to make friends is go to pretty much every single event, or whichever ones look mildly interesting, is go to all of them. And what that helps you do is you get to meet people really quickly. And what you'll find is people at Oxford generally are people like yourself who might be nervous, might be very excited to be here. So everyone is really keen to get to know each other. And the benefit of so much, social smashing with all of these events and all of these different like people who you see together, you end up making friends really quickly. Like for myself, I think pretty much after my 5th day at Oxford, I'd already met the group of friends with whom I still hang out right now. And yeah, it's just that and societies. If you attend societies regularly and you see the same people over and over again, that's probably the other best way to make friends with people. And the benefit of societies as well is that's like intercollegiate. So you will meet people from other colleges as well. So that's how whatever friends I have outside of college, I usually met them all through Board Game Society or some other society.
That's really nice. Go on, Naomi.
So I will definitely second that. I think societies can be a really great way to meet people. Quite a few of my closest friends and my partner are from my choir. Although I do also have friends from my college and from my course. I will say I do think Freshers Week can be great for meeting people. But I do also think if you're not the kind of person that maybe makes friends super quickly, like I feel like it might take me a bit longer sometimes to feel like I'm really close with people, there are lots of opportunities after Freshers Week. And so I find some of my friends that do maths, I didn't meet until the second term of my first year. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities. And if you feel like Freshers Week can be a bit overwhelming, or you just want to take a bit of a break, that's completely fine. You will meet people that you get on really well with, and that's completely fine if it takes a bit more time.
Anyone else on making friends? Go on, Melanie.
Maybe not so much on the friendship, but also on the support group you get. So I think what's really special in Oxford is because the colleges are all quite small, also smaller than Cambridge, you really get to know people from upper years as well. So you do not just meet other first years. And from a sort of tutor's point of view, I usually find that the second years have a huge influence on the first years, both in terms of advice and also just finding out how things work. You will have someone to talk with who has done these things. And later on, when you go to, applying for internships or jobs, you can talk with people in the upper years, you know them anyway, and you get to meet them really easily. So I think that's a really nice thing, which you do not get at a lot of universities.
A bit follow up on Melanie's point. So the colleges have something called the JCR, which is kind of like the student council for the undergraduate at your college, and they also offer a lot of support, a lot of activities, and you can also potentially run for a position on the committee, and that might also be a good opportunity, not just for making friends, but to really help contribute to the community you're in and to have fun. Yeah.
I've seen this in schools and sixth forms as a kind of school council thing as well. Slightly running the place and also slightly organising nice things. Brilliant. There are several questions that I have not read out for fear, because people want to know about careers and they want to know about jobs, and that's valid. My fear is that the first years haven't thought about it yet, and the third year, and I'm hi Naomi, the third year might be thinking about it quite a lot. So without putting anyone on the spot, let's talk about support. Let's talk about what sort of things Oxford's doing to help people who maybe start the course not knowing anything about what they want to do afterwards, find out what they want to do next. I'm not putting anyone on the spot, so I will. Go on, Naomi.
So there's a career service, and they offer lots of different internships, and they also have very easy to access. You can have a one-to-one talk, I think, about your CV or just thinking about what to apply for. So I believe that can be very useful. Also, sometimes things through your college. For example, this summer I'm doing an internship, which is sort of organized like this group of companies in partnership with St. Anne's College. And I'm doing one of those. So that can be a really great sort of way in. So yeah, there is definitely a lot of support for careers and a lot of time to think about what you want to do. I think, as James says, a lot of people in third year or even fourth year probably don't quite know what they want to do, and that is completely fine.
Yeah. We do the special careers fair for mathematicians. I mean, there's a careers fair organised by the career service, but there's also careers for mathematicians, which is a special event just for, it's held in the Maths Institute, so the maths students are on home turf, and that's really attractive to employers. We get lots of people who want to be there to try and recruit or to try and offer internships or to try and at least give people biros and t-shirts and flip-flops or whatever for their companies. Melanie, do you want to say something?
Yeah, so for example, also the student societies sometimes organize really helpful things. So in March, the student societies organized the Women in Math Day, where there was all types of things to do with academia, but also there were people from companies coming in. They were offering one-on-one sessions. So there's a lot of opportunities to basically find out more about it. And then, as Naomi said, sometimes it's colleges organizing things more in sort of small settings where it's less scary to ask stupid questions, in quote. So we had recently just some of our alumni who basically graduated 2 years ago come back, have, pizza together with the current undergraduates, and just say in a few words of like, what are they actually doing? How did they get into what they like, what they don't like? One of them said that you have to eat your sandwich at your desk. That wasn't very nice, but like honest things, not just the shiny picture that companies might present. And I think that's really nice because you're just becoming part of the family when you join here and you get to know these people, and they are completely fine with emailing, they've just been here as a student themselves, and then they can just exchange email addresses, and you can ask the people you met in college what they are doing now.
There's quite a lot of network things. There was a point where the career service was listing job opportunities, and across all of Oxford they had about 3,000 graduates, and I think they were listing about 9,000 careers that people had approached them to try and advertise to graduates. So it was sort of 3-to-1 factor. But lots of our students go off and find other things elsewhere anyway. The careers fair seems to have lots of companies who do things with finance or software or both, but that doesn't mean that our graduates have to go and work in finance and software or both. They go and do lots of different things. Okay, there's a question about colleges, because this is maybe quite bad of me, but when I'm doing the information about Oxford and information about the application process, I purposefully hardly mention colleges at all. I'm really sorry, Melanie. I always don't mention colleges at all, other than to say, you get the same maths course at each college, so we've done that bit. they've asked about application. Does it matter which college you apply to? A big part of my job is to try and make sure that the answer is no. So that if you're a strong candidate who deserves to be at Oxford, then it does not matter who else has applied to the same college as you, because of things like second college interviews, where if you're interviewed, a second team might see you as well, and you might end up at a college that isn't the one you applied to, but we're trying to make sure that overall we're admitting the best students. So I suppose that leaves a question like, how do you choose a college, or why did you choose your college, if indeed you did choose your college? Or Melanie, I suppose, why should people choose your college? So let's do the college stuff, but I've stressed first, as the admissions coordinator, I've stressed first that you don't get an admissions advantage by choosing Melanie's college, or disadvantage if everyone in the school, there is something like 120 people live. If they all are excellent mathematicians apply to Melanie's college, then our admissions process will survive that. Melanie gets first pick, but after that...
Well, you have to apply to Trinity if you like chocolate. That's sort of the answer. I'm the one who hands out the most chocolate. That's the biggest distinction of my tutorials, because I think when things get hard, you need chocolate, and pure math is quite hard. No, on a serious note, it really, as James said, it doesn't matter that much. I think pick a college that you like. Most colleges are really nice. Pretty much ignore what is written in some of the chat rooms. I mean, some of them have historically some reputation. They're really not like that. It's also not a case that your chances are better or worse. That in some colleges, if you are from state schools, you are less likely to get in or anything like that. So this is all, there's a lot of rumors around, and just try to ignore these rumors. I mean, my college has had a reputation at some point that you had lots of private school kids. I'm a first generation mathematician, first generation uni student myself, and quite a lot of us here at the college are like that. So just pretty much ignore these things, and then, just choose one that looks nice, and most of us are friendly. And it also doesn't matter how big the college is. So if you have a college which is smaller, then James will make sure that that college gets less applications. So your chances are not bigger or smaller depending on size. Sometimes it can be nicer to be in a smaller place, or you might prefer a bigger place, or it's all fine. And of course, here it's very nice. And we have the best food at Trinity as well. Never mind.
The best food and chocolate, says Melanie.
And chocolate, absolutely. There's even some in the background, I think. Mm-hmm.
Naomi, I think. And someone has just asked which colleges are closest to the maths building. So what can you tell us about St Anne's?
St Anne's is very, very close to the maths building. When I was in first year, I would leave my room after 9 for my 9 o'clock lectures, because they actually start at 5 past the hour. So that is great. Also, Somerville is very close. I would say, on the subject of colleges, I definitely agree with Melanie that it doesn't matter too much, and that they are all great in their own way. I would say 2 things to consider if you're really not sure what things you should be thinking about are location. Do you want to be in the centre of Oxford because you're close to things, a lot of things, or do you think maybe that might be a bit touristy or a bit too intense? You know, there's pros and cons. St Anne's is very near University Parks, which is this lovely green space. And the other thing I would say is kitchens. If you're someone that you think you might want to cook, colleges have varying access to kitchens within the accommodation. But often the food in the hall is very nice and you can eat with your friends, which is lovely. Oh, and on the subject of location, a lot of colleges, for maybe in one of the years, you might live in college-owned accommodation, but it's not on the college site. That's quite common. So when you're thinking about location, maybe also try and find out where that accommodation is, because that might be a bit further out or not. So yeah, those are things that I would recommend considering if you're not sure, but they are all great.
Should we go Lily? Oh no, Gaurav next, go on.
Sorry, I don't want to cut into Lily's time, so if she wants to speak first.
No, it's okay, you can go.
Sorry. I would say that I think it's important to mention that pretty much everybody in their college says that their own college is the best college. So that should be a big indicator that doesn't make too much of a difference. In terms of advertising Pembroke, what I will say is Pembroke, and equivalently Christchurch, which is also right across the street. I would say it has one of the best locations because pretty much, as Naomi said, it is in the city center. So if that's something that you like, then I've never had to walk more than 15 minutes for anything. And whether that be groceries, whether that be for going to the mall, whether that be for just hang out with friends or anything like that, and the Math Institute as well, everything is within a 15-minute walk. And I will say that do take a look at which colleges you want to apply to, because sometimes different colleges might offer things such as bursaries that might depend on college to college. So if that is something that you are looking for, then I would recommend sort of looking through those things.
Quick time out to flag bursaries. I do want to remember to talk about bursaries in a second because there's lots of big ones that are independent of college, especially the big UK student one, which doesn't matter which college you're at. But Lily, it's your turn to advertise the college, I think.
Okay, so I'm at Queen's, and Queen's also got the benefit of having a good location. And I think one of the things that made me choose Queen's was that I was very hesitant between a few colleges, but then what really makes the deal is that as a theater person, I really considered which colleges have a potential auditorium which we might be able to perform at. Or maybe say if you're interested in singing, you can look into the chapel choirs and see maybe if this college is known more for their music traditions, maybe you'll want to go for that if you're like choosing between a few colleges that you can't decide. But of course, like that is not the key deciding factor for choosing which college. There are a lot of more other things involved.
Thank you. I suppose there are quite a lot of other colleges who we haven't got a representative from. Oh, I should do New College really quickly. New College has got part of the old city walls, and we have a college cat, and we have, yes, a great location. I think every college says they have a great location, so that's quite fun. Yes, quickly then on, I wanted to do, right, how many colleges you apply to, because you can only choose one on your form or zero. You have the option to make an open application. If you do that, then a computer algorithm, I'm pointing at my computer, a computer algorithm will assign you to a college, and then you'll be treated exactly as if you applied to that college. So the option exists if you don't care. If you have no preference in college, if you say, well, they all sound the best, just give me a college, you can make an open application and we'll give you a college. It's not an advantage or a disadvantage, it's just there if you don't care. If you want to simulate it yourself, you could roll a 29-sided die or something, if you can find such a thing. Roll a 29-sided die and then select that one from the drop-down list. It really is that you could randomly do this yourself. Our algorithm is slightly more advanced than that because we try and use it to even out numbers a little bit. It's one of my moving people around mechanisms. But you could roll it yourself at home. The advantage of doing it like that is that if you do it at home, you can re-roll. Once we've assigned you a college, it's too late for you to discover that you have a preference afterwards. Maybe try this at home. You're mathematicians, right? You can do some random number stuff. Bursaries really quickly. If you search online for fees and funding Oxford, you can find information about things like the Oxford Bursary, which is available to quite a large number of our UK students. That's pretty generous funding. Some versions of this are just some cash you don't pay back. It's sort of just given to you. For international students, it varies quite a lot from course to course and college to college and country to country. There's a search tool on the web. I probably can't do these in the Slido, but there's a search tool on the web where you can see if you can find specific scholarships that happen to match up with what you're doing. There are also, we're aware, other things external to Oxford for international students, where some countries, the country's government or something will have some bursaries for people to study abroad, which is not something we can list, but if you're looking for scholarships, maybe look further afield than our website, but do look at our website as well. So this is sort of bursary information. Our commitment is that we want the best students, regardless of financial background, where we can, especially thinking about household income in the UK. We want people to be able to study here without feeling that they need to take on a part-time job during term time and without feeling they're struggling financially, and that's slowing them down for studying maths and philosophy and all this nice stuff that they want to do. We want people to thrive. Oxford's famously got quite a lot of cash. Not all of it available, I wish, not all of it available to just hand out to maths students, but some commitments to do things like that. Good. Okay. Quick breather. How are we doing? Oh, it's 10 to 12, so we've got 10 minutes. Student panel, I've been throwing questions at you almost at random. I don't know if you've been keeping track of stuff that is there a question that you would ask at this point? I don't know. Are there questions that you are waiting to answer that we haven't done? This is the converse question, right? What should we be asking next? I'm gonna keep sorting through things as well. Sort of industrial and placement years, financial support for estranged students is a question, but there's the Oxford bursary. I mentioned household income, but we are aware that for some people that's a more complicated question, and we are keen to do financial support in situations like that where we can. So somebody in chat says, I heard it's better. This is the sort of questions we're getting now. You see the follow-up questions, right? I heard it's better to choose a college than to make an open application. Is this true? Melanie says no, because Melanie, when I send when the applications go off to the colleges, if you've made an open application and then been assigned to Trinity,
we don't even find out, and to be honest, I don't care. I mean, I want you, of course, to apply to my college because I want to teach you. But I mean, in the end, it doesn't matter, really. You just apply where you feel like you want to apply. And if you're completely fine with it, then just have an open application. And a lot of people are not assigned their first college anyway. And they still think afterwards it's the best place they could ever have gotten in. Sometimes, I mean, it's sometimes just this random process has life-changing consequences. As in, I recently got an invite to the wedding of students. One of them got assigned their second college, one of them assigned like Trinity, and that's basically changed their life. So the algorithm does interesting things, and it doesn't matter. And you'll love your college, I think.
Just for Competition and Markets Authority, I need to stress that meeting the love of your life is not an advertised
not
perk.
part of the advertisement.
not
Yes.
an advertised perk of studying at Trinity College, but has happened once before. Good. There's a question about pianos. I think people mentioned music, so return to music briefly. I think we mentioned college opportunities before. I can't remember what we said about pianos before, but somebody's got a question about music's really important to them. What opportunities are there for accessing they say a piano, so any piano will do. Is this a thing for Naomi and maybe Lily? I can't remember. Naomi first.
They might have a piano in your JCR, which I think Lily's mentioned, like the actual room, which is your like sort of college like common room. If you can befriend a music student, they can let you. They might be able to let you into the music faculty, or if you're practicing for an ensemble, you might have rehearsals there. There's often college practice rooms. Like at my college, we have some, and they all have pianos in them. So I think that can be really great and very convenient.
Lily?
Yeah, to add on that, there are college practice rooms. I'm not sure for every college, but for Queen's, you can just search on the internet, and that's how we do the bookings if we need to practice the piano. So you can just see if this college has music practice rooms. And also, I do also know people who have bands. You don't have to play like the piano. Like if you're okay with keyboards, you might be able to bring your own keyboard, or they might have like societies of bands or musicians where they already own a keyboard that you might be able to use for practice.
Yeah, and I don't know, I sort of feel like I'm leaving out. I've assumed that Gura and Melanie, you haven't mentioned pianos yet. Anything to add about music or?
Yeah, we have quite a lot of practice rooms. We have a new building which has quite a few music rooms, and you just book online, and usually you find a way to basically do what you want. I think whatever it is you want to do in your free time, usually there is a good way of doing it.
That's a question
With Pembroke, all I know is that because I'm not really too much of a music person, I've been awful at music. But what I can say is I know that there is a piano room in our college, and I have seen my friends on occasion just go there when no one is using it, just to play for leisure.
There's also a sport question while we're doing personal other things, because somebody says, how competitive is the rowing? Possibly they're having a dig at us because of the Oxford-Cambridge boat race situation. But there's a bit of rowing. I don't know if anybody does any rowing. We can do other sports if need be, but go on, Naomi.
I don't do it anymore, but I did do a bit in my first term. So if anyone else has any more experience, feel free to jump in. But I would just say I found it very accessible. Not many people, at least that I found, had rowed at all before coming to university. So it is a very easy sport to take up. And they very much want you people to take it up because they want the team to keep going. So if that's something that you might be interested in, it doesn't have to be competitive. You can get to a really high standard and then you might be training a lot, or it might be competitive, but it doesn't have to be like that, at least that I've seen.
Yeah, just to add from my experience, I think it depends whether you want it to be competitive or not. I previously had a student who was in the reserve of the Oxford boat, and for her, then they had a huge amount of training. But at the same time, if you just want to do some rowing and learn it, then this is something which is lower intensity. I think you still need to get up quite early because they're often going onto the river in the morning before the lectures.
Like exercise and sport generally, I've heard. Well, not generally, I suppose. There's sport you can do in the afternoon, I think. Goodness me, now someone's going to ask me if all of the football matches are scheduled for the night time or something. Right, okay. There's some question about art as well. So I don't know if anybody's doing any sort of art society. The question is about art rooms. I'm not sure what an art room is. If anybody's got an art room. Go on, yeah, go on, Naomi.
There's one in Christchurch. I don't know if this is what they're referring to, but there is a Christchurch art room which you can use. I think you have to be on some list, but that is there, and I have been, even though I'm not from Christchurch, and it is lovely.
What does that involve?
Well, they have all kinds of materials. I did like a lino cut kind of thing where you like sort of chisel out bits of plastic and then you sort of color over it and then you print it. Sorry, I don't know if the hand gesture is helpful, but they also have other kinds of things. So that is very nice. I don't know if that's other things that any other colleges have, but that might be what the person's referring to.
The thing that will happen now is you've described it, and everyone's going to pick Christchurch because of this art situation, and then every other college is going to have one. Go on, Melanie.
Yeah, I think generally with things which are a bit more niche, usually there's a way of joining another college. So I currently have a first-year student who likes gardening to relax, and he just joined the gardening club of a different college, and that's completely fine. He's happy with that, and he meets other students from that college. So you shouldn't worry too much. Usually it works out.
Nice. Lily? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if that's the same for every college, but for our college, our JCR has an arts rep, and she's in charge of everything related in the JCR with arts, and we can also propose to her and the JCR in general in all the meetings to maybe buy some art supplies in the Tama room, and we can all use it. It's just that as long as you clean up, everyone's happy with it.
Nice. Gyms and facilities, using things like libraries from other colleges, and sometimes, you're nodding, Melanie, sometimes people use resources from other colleges. I mean, for libraries, every college has got a library, which is...
Yeah, and there's a lot of libraries around town as well that you can use. And I think often you also join other friends from other colleges to join them in. I think with college libraries, I guess the students know better. It depends a bit on the opening times. So if you want to be in the library at 3 o'clock in the morning, you'd probably better do that in your own college than in another college.
Thanks. Okay. I think we're going to wrap up because we've hit 12 o'clock. So thank you very much to everyone on the panel, Naomi, Gaurav, Lily and Melanie. And thanks for all your questions in the Slido. What's going to happen next is we're going to stop being live. If you'd like to watch one of the pre-recorded videos or something else from our YouTube channel, we've got a big collection of Supercurricular maths ideas through the Maths Club on this YouTube channel, and we've got lots of examples of sample lectures on our main YouTube channel, youtube.com/Oxford Mathematics. So you might like to watch a video. If you've asked a question and we haven't answered it, I'm going to spend some of this afternoon going through typing answers to people's questions. There are, can use 196 in the Slido, so I don't think we've answered everything. So I'm going through and type answers to as many of them as I can this afternoon. So if you check back later, I might have got around to answering it. If I haven't answered your question by the end of the day and you would like to ask it to us, you could email undergraduate.admissions@maths.ox.ac.uk, which is an email address you can find all over our website for contacting the admissions team. But I will end there by saying once again, thank you to our lovely panel. Thank you for people joining in with the online open day, wherever you're watching us from. I hope we've been helpful. And if not, please let us have another go via typed answer or by email. Maybe we'll see you in Oxford at some point in the future. But until then, goodbye from us.